All right, there's a lot of talk around Washington on different ways to make housing more affordable. And really, they're trying to do two things. They're trying to make it easier for people to sell their house that have one, and make it easier for people to buy a house that have one. So let's talk about that. First of all, as I mentioned earlier this week, there's been talk about, rather than a 30-year mortgage, doing a 50-year mortgage. And that has received a lot of heat. That would obviously reduce the monthly cost, which would make it easier for people to get into a house. But there's some obvious concerns around that. As you know, when you get a mortgage right now in a 30-year, your first 5 to 10 years, you're paying mostly interest. So imagine if you had a 50-year loan, the same thing is going to happen. And so when you sell your home, on average, every 7 to 10 years, and if the market adjusts down, because the market does go up and down, you're going to be underwater. And so that would not be a good thing. The other thing I've heard out there is that you can, they're only talking about it, you can't do it, but they're talking about where you can take your interest rate with you, okay? So there's a ton of baby boomers that are not doing anything because they have like a 2.5% or 3% interest rate. We have a 3% interest rate or something close to that. And so they don't want to sell and then have to get a new mortgage, if they have to get a new mortgage, and have it be, 6%. So that is the other thing that I'm hearing out there. And the third thing that they're talking about, which you can already do, is assuming mortgages. And to make that easier, right now, you can assume somebody's mortgage. It depends on what type of mortgage it is, though. However, it's a long, tedious process, and they're talking about ways to make that easier. So those are like three of the ideas that are floating out there. They're getting a lot of traction this week, a lot of talk. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts? What do you think of either one of those? Is that something that you think would allow people to make it easier to move, like being able to port your existing interest rate, or do you think that the 50-year mortgage is a good idea for people to make it lower so they can get into housing sooner rather than later? Let me know your thoughts. Put it below. Let's talk about it. Let's get some conversation going about it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I will be talking to you next week.